Now, a Hutch's weather update with meteorologist Hutch Johnson.
All right, and hello everyone. I am Hutch Johnson. Let's talk about the nation's weather today, shall we? Any travel in the north is going to be impacted by an Alberta clipper that's ripping through the northern plains. Gusts in North Dakota hit over 61 miles per hour in the last hour here. And this live is being done at 8:30 in the morning Central Time here from North Dakota. We do have winter weather to talk about in the Pacific Northwest. A couple of winter storm warnings where over a foot of snow is going to be possible. We have challenging travel conditions through the nation's northern section in the Fargo area, and heading into Minneapolis today will be some very gusty winds. We have showers in the Great Lakes and some advisories for some wind and showers in those areas. We do have some activity in the south today that could indeed be severe. We're going to go over all of it right now. Let's get started first with that look at the radar full screen so I don't have to be right in the way. First and foremost, here's a look at the peak gusts. This was just updated in the Grand Forks, North Dakota area. A gust at the airport here just within the hour of 61 miles per hour was recorded there. So keep in mind these gusts are really ripping out of the north. So any east-west travel through the northern plains today in high-profile vehicles could be something of a challenge. This is I-94. Here's Fargo, where the mouse pointer is right here. That's Fargo. Going this way towards the Bismarck area. You can see gusts along I-94 throughout the day and this morning, and even in the overnight hours last night, were over 50 miles per hour. But gusts right now between 45 and 62 miles per hour up and down what's called the Red River Valley of the North in in North Dakota. Now, that's the winter weather that's hitting there. Let's take a touch on the national weather with severe risk as well. And to do that, we'll take a look at this Storm Prediction Center. And the Storm Prediction Center generally has a great risk, or a slight risk of severe weather in the Gulf Coast states. So where you see the yellow counties here, or the yellow area, that is a slight risk. A slight risk is a level 2 on a 5-level scale down below. Okay, level 2 of a risk of severe weather. The dark green areas, if you happen to be in southern Louisiana and the Gulf Coast all the way to the panhandle of Florida, north into most of Kentucky, the risk there is called marginal. That means storms are going to be really close to severe levels, but we're not really overly excited about the risk of severe weather in those areas. It could happen though. So the yellow areas where the impacts will be the greatest. Mary, good morning from Hillsboro, where it's very windy in North Dakota today. Sandy, thanks for joining. A lot of ice in Jamestown, and all of the slush last night that fell between Grand Forks, where UND played Colorado College last night in hockey, falling in overtime. It was a great game. I was at that game. It was fun. Grafton reporting in with Gene. Thanks so much. Definitely windy. So the national picture, severe weather from the similar system that we're dealing with in the northern plains. That cold, dry air rolling out of the Rockies is going to slam into some humid air in the Gulf Coast states. And there's going to be a risk of not just severe thunderstorms. Hail is probably the #1 threat with some gusty windstorms. But check this out. Here's the tornado threat. Now, I want to share how to read this. In the southeast, we're talking from around Pine Bluff, Arkansas here, into northeastern Louisiana, the northern reaches of Mississippi and Alabama, all the way through most of Kentucky, from the eastern third all the way to the west, and just the southern reaches of Kentucky and Tennessee. There's going to be a 5% risk of a tornado. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't mean they'll be overly strong. A slight risk generally means that we could see a tornado or two. But there is a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles of a point. That's how to read these. And it says that kind of right here. So keep in mind, it doesn't mean that there's going to be an outbreak, but a 5% risk of a tornado is fairly healthy compared to a daily risk that's well under 1%. And in many cases, it's well under 0.1%. So the risk of tornadoes is shown here. It's greatest from Arkansas in the south and eastern reaches of Arkansas, to southern Kentucky. That does include western Tennessee, northern Alabama, and northern portions of the state of Mississippi. Now, wind risk with these storms, that's what looks to be the main risk, and hail also 15% within 25 miles of a point that you see here in the yellow area there. So wind, yeah, we'll see some. Hail, yep, we'll see some. The risk of those is greater, about 15% than a tornado, but we can't rule one out. That's what you need to know about the national weather, but we haven't touched on the Pacific Northwest. So to do that, I'm going to go back to the radar, and we'll get to a model here of your forecast in one moment. So stay tuned for that. As we look in the Pacific Northwest, we have areas up here where we have purple. Those are winter weather advisories. And then these outlined in pink are winter storm warnings. This is in parts of, well, basically east of Spokane, Washington, and in the mountains of northern Idaho. This area is in a winter storm warning. I'll read the details on that for you, but we're expecting snow to be very heavy, 4 to 8 inches. Gusty winds with this storm system that'll be rolling through today. It's just now making landfall in the Pacific Northwest off the Pacific coast. So this system will impact 4 p.m. this afternoon Pacific time until 4 a.m. on Monday. So keep that in mind. It's a long-lived system, and we're talking about areas near Kellogg out there and the 4th of July pass as we head into December. Check out the Seattle area here. Seattle, Tacoma, just off to the east of you in the mountains. We have winter storm warnings there as well. Snoqualmie Pass, going to see snow. Look at the inches of snow expected here, 8 to 12 inches. Snohomish area and King counties, as well as Stevens and Snoqualmie passes from 10 a.m. Saturday, or about now, coming up soon, as the system you can see on the radar behind there is just now working its way in. There it is. Now, when that moisture and humid air works its way into the elevated terrain, it's going to be cold enough today for some pretty heavy snow and wind in those areas. So a few areas under winter storm warnings. At the same time, we're concerned about Jackson, Mississippi, and down toward the Nashville area, seeing a risk of some severe thunderstorms, gusty wind, hail, and maybe an isolated tornado. Let's talk about the risk and the timing on all of this as we have winter weather working its way through the northern plains as well. Visibility, by the way, if you're traveling from Minneapolis through North Dakota or anywhere through North Dakota on I-94 or I-29, is very tough. It's under a mile in many places, under a tenth of a mile. So keep that in mind. Good morning, Brad. Thanks for joining. Hit the thumbs up and likes buttons is Brad's advice. I sure appreciate that. If you do, that really helps me out. And I know that you're out there watching. Drop me a comment as well as where you're watching from. And if you have a weather question, just a little bit of an introduction. My name is meteorologist Hutch Johnson. I have 26 years of on-air television weather experience in Fargo and in Bismarck, North Dakota. Schooled in Cheyenne, worked with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration for a few years early in my career doing research meteorology. I have a fun time talking about the weather and answering questions for you as we go through our day today. Let's take a look at the forecast model behind me. I'll load that up right now. And essentially what we are expecting as we go through the day today and what the timing will be for severe weather in the south. And we'll look at the snow system making its way into the Pacific Northwest, the storm moving out of Fargo and towards the Minneapolis area. No advisories in central Minnesota towards Minneapolis, towards Duluth, or into Wisconsin for the most part as a result of this clipper, because it is weakening now, but the wind will be a problem in these areas all day. We'll have gusts over 40 miles per hour continuing. All right, let's take a look at that model, shall we? Let's take a look at a higher resolution regional model so we can get a little bit of a picture of what the snow is doing. We're going to pick the well, these are both American models, but let's go ahead and take a look at the south with the severe weather threat down there being severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. I'm going to roll this model behind me and give you a peek at the time steps when things develop. Boom, right here. See the lighting up of the future radar, okay? So this future radar here, this timeline has storms firing not far from Jackson, right over that, and just off to the west of Huntsville. This is really the area, Tornado Alley, where we have that risk of severe weather, even into these months of the year, because we have cold, dry air rolling off the Rockies, and that's colliding with the moist air. This goes all the way up to the Cincinnati area, but that severe risk, as we saw, really tapers off as we go through southern parts of Kentucky. The timestamp on this is going to be about 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time. So keep that in mind. In the early afternoon here, the firing up of storms, which is typically the case. Now, as we set this into motion, those storms and the rain with them that is much needed in these areas really blossoms in northern parts of Mississippi. So my gut is that's where we're going to see the best chance of seeing some outbreak. In the initial onset of storms is when the tornado risk is usually highest. So if you're in Arkansas into parts of northern Mississippi. That's where I think that the risk may be the greatest in the early onset of storms. As it evolves and continues to move off to the east, those risks do continue, but the main threats will be wind and hail, and we will have some concerns about some heavy rain, but it's much needed in many of these areas. So that's a look at the severe weather there. We'll carry this through and show you that the rain just continues. Watch what happens. This particular model doesn't go out in time far enough, so I'm going to pull up the North American model here, and that'll show you that there's going to be some mountains in the Appalachians as we go through the latter part of this storm. Here it comes. Here's the afternoon thunderstorms, and we go into the nighttime hours, and whoop, right there, Knoxville on into western parts of the Carolinas, seeing a chance of some flaky weather. It won't stick around too long in all likelihood, but that's there. Now we're going to move this map up to the Pacific Northwest and check out the system making its landfall right now. And I'll pause this. Boom, right there. Snow taking off. The time on this is 12Z 6 a.m. Saturday. So it begins overnight tonight, late tonight, and in the mountains here. So it's rain on the coastal areas, but once we get up into the elevated terrain there in the Cascades and Snoqualmie Pass, there's going to be wind and snow that spreads in from this system, and that's going to impact the road conditions all the way into western Montana near Missoula there and into northern parts of Idaho. Stepping in time, and this timestamp again, Saturday morning. Okay, I'm going to move the map over a little bit over my shoulder, and then we'll put this into motion a little bit more. And notice how long it lasts. Boom, boom, snow, 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 snow. Now you're looking at, excuse me, this will be at 4 p.m. This is 4 p.m. on Saturday. So that's still snowing in the late part of the day, okay, and all day long. Now we are seeing some warmer air punch in. Walla Walla and Boise, it's typically a nice warmer climate in Boise comparably. But yeah, in the elevated terrain, there's some significant snow. It spreads into Butte, Montana, Billings, Montana, Roundup, Montana, up into Great Falls, Montana. And hey, how about Jackson, Wyoming, getting some snow out there in and around West Yellowstone. So that's that system. The timestamp you're looking at here is going to be valid at about the early to late morning on Sunday. So this is a long-lived system, folks, that's going to continue to impact the northern Rockies all the way from the Cascades into Montana as we head into the late part of our weekend. So that's a look at your weather nationally. Let's show you a couple of interesting features with regard to the weather in the north right now and travel concerns. If you are traveling up in the north, I'm going to load up a DOT map and show you that in North Dakota, which is where many of the viewers here are from, and my home area, we'll go ahead and take a look at the DOT map out there. Here it is. Now, when we're looking at this, you're going to see a lot of roads and a lot of colors, but I just wanted to point out that the areas of red here are no travel advisories. That's Fargo, North Dakota area. That also does include Grand Forks, North Dakota, and those areas where you see the red counties and the candy striped roads. Definitely some tricky travel taking place in these areas. As we get down into the Fargo area at the bottom of the map, I'll click on one of these DOT cameras and we can show you what the roads look like. So if you're not from the north, that's a solid layer of ice on the roads, by the way. It's like cement. We got slush last night, a very wet snow. As the cold air dove in out of Canada, it kind of froze that, flash froze it on the roads, or slowly froze it overnight, essentially. And now it's real difficult to scrape off. And it's just, not only is this east-west road here going eastbound I-94 just to the west of Fargo, you're looking at ice on the road surface there, but the wind is coming from the right side of your screen here out of Canada from the north, and it's gusting over 50 miles per hour as we work our way through. So again, 50 mile per hour gusts is going to keep that ice on that road for some time here in the Northland. So that's what's going on with our weather here in North Dakota. I do want to say that no travel advisory for those of you traveling in North Dakota has been reduced to just the Red River Valley counties. Out west, things are improving, and that's the good news that'll be happening here, but not until this evening. In Minnesota, the difficult travel is highlighted by these pink roads here. We're talking Thief River Falls and areas mainly north of I-94. We do have one incident reported on Highway 10 here near New York Mills. There is a vehicle spun out on the road there. The road conditions, by the way, on Interstate 94 between Fargo and Minneapolis, if you're traveling that stretch of roads today, it is not bad and wet. Look at this. It's wet and just turning white. This is not far from the Fergus Falls, Minnesota area, but when you get closer to Fargo, the closer you get, the visibilities have been down to, yeah, look at that. That's what it looks like on the camera lens. as we're looking into the wind to the north, right? The wind is just plastering that snow mixture on the camera there, but the visibility has been reduced in some of these areas to under a mile. Here is a look at that same camera pointed in a different direction. And you can see certainly visibility issues, and I-94 definitely gets a little bit more snow covered, if you will, as we glide a little closer north of Fergus Falls towards Fargo. So that's what's going on with the travel in the northern plains here. We do have the severe weather risk in the deep south today. We're talking mainly for you folks in parts of eastern Arkansas, and we're also talking to folks who might be interested in the northern reaches of both Mississippi and Alabama. So from Birmingham and Huntsville all the way up into Jackson, Mississippi is where I think we'll see some of the greatest potential. There'll be wind, there'll be hail, and there'll even be an isolated tornado or two possible out of things today. Do they look like particularly strong tornadoes? Not necessarily. The numbers aren't there, but we could see some tornadoes today in those areas. So have your weather radios handy if you have weather radios, or stay tuned to your local National Weather Service offices for the latest on that. All right, that's your update. I am meteorologist Hutch Johnson. I sure appreciate your likes on the videos if you like some of the information I shared with you. I try to bring a meteorological perspective and share with you some of the things that we look at and tools we use to make decisions in meteorology on a daily basis. These are the high impact areas of the country today. Pacific Northwest, you can expect a winter storm to be blasting into areas just off to the east of the Seattle-Tacoma area, impacting areas all the way into western Montana and western Wyoming as we go into the close of the weekend. We're seeing an exiting system through the Fargo area now hitting northern Minnesota and impacting travel there. And also we have concerns somewhat about that severe weather in the south, but the rain is much needed. So we can keep the severe weather at bay, the moisture much needed in the drought-stricken southern part of the U.S. there in the Gulf Coast states. Again, have a great day. We'll talk to you again soon.